Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in. And in this video, we're going to talk about one of the more important topics, not only in the US, not only with regards to Americans and American culture, but also for immigrants, for those of us who are planning to move here in the US, or those of us who are just coming here to kind of be here temporarily, either visit a family member because we are a parent, or we're here just to get that education degree and kind of move back. So we're not really planning to live here. And this video is also going to be kind of educational with regards to what are the realities about this very topic, because we've been told a lot, especially when it comes to 2020 and to this point, about this topic being kind of too intense, existing and damaging in the US and in the West, and certain aspects of it kind of picks in certain dates and times, such as now that we have a war going on. And what was my experience as an immigrant with regards to this very subject, and how did I learn to cope or kind of draw some boundaries, come up with some solutions in order to fight this problem, because this problem does still exist in this country, and the extent can be different in different occasions or topics. All right, so what is that thing? What is that subject that I've been keep referring to from the beginning of this video? It's nothing but discrimination. It's nothing but a discrimination, and it can be in different forms. A discrimination can be with regards to your race, a discrimination can be with regards to your accent, with regards to the way you look, the facial features that you have, the hair color, the eyelashes, the eyebrows, and not having certain features, not having certain physical attributions, or having them. And if you do have them or if you don't have them, it will put you in different categories, and those categories have then different subcategories with them, which can basically have different groups in them, and those groups will put you as somebody who does not belong in that group and treat you differently and do not attribute you as a member of that particular group. And we really want to get deeper into this subject, because US is a melting pot, so it has people from all different backgrounds coming to it and living here, achieving different dreams and living that American life, or don't, suffering. And that really kind of makes this whole problem going to a different level. And that's why I think it's important to talk about it, because it is not as simple as what you've been told from the news media outlets with regards to, oh, there is this race that always hates other races or other peoples without their skin color or without their hair color, and it's always the discrimination coming from them towards every other group. As an immigrant, as somebody who moved here without knowing English very well, and I say very well, that's very generous of me, because I remember like in my first and second year of high school, I barely knew how to communicate, and had barely couple friends. Like I remember the first day I was just walking around high school looking for somebody that I can at least go and say hi to, because I just didn't know anyone, and they were all in different groups. And I dressed differently, I probably acted differently, and I remember that my parents were the same. So it was not the case that I had any of the attributions or the knowledge of the American culture and how it worked. And so I had to pay the price. I had to pay the price, and I'm gonna tell you as an experience that in majority of cases, I've been treated actually better than worse, and in majority of the cases, it was by the group of people that the news media outlet want to kind of enforce this ideology that they're the discriminatory group. They're the one who always hate other groups or other minorities, and I'm talking about white people. So in high school where I attended, I was basically surrounded by a majority white population, and they were on a higher end of the economic perspective, if you want to put it there. So nicer houses, nicer cars, and better living situation. And in majority of cases, I was very much welcomed. My culture, the fact that I didn't know the American culture, and the fact that I didn't know English very well, it was all welcomed and appreciated. And of course, among all of those apples, just like the previous video, we talked about the policing. We had some bad apples, those people who didn't want to communicate with me, didn't want to have anything to do with me, and did not respect me. And as a matter of fact, they consider me as an idiot because I didn't know how to communicate or transfer what I was thinking or what I was trying to say clearly to other people. And I have to say that to this point that I can speak English in a much better level, that I have a better knowledge of laws, of the American culture, of other cultures, of other people who moved here and lived here for a long time from different groups and categories. I can say that unfortunately it is usually the minorities that put me down. Those who are first generation immigrants, those whose parents do not speak English very well, those who basically either were in my shoes or are in my shoes, that moved here like 4 or 5 years before me or earlier than me. And they picked up the language, they picked up the culture, now they wanted to put me down or kind of treated me differently because they assumed that I didn't know, that I'm not capable of. And the saddest part and the most unfortunate aspect of this, it's not that the other minority groups, that these people who are also non-white people, non-Americans, put you down. That's 30% of it. It's that stigma that those people always follow and try to play it out when it comes to you, to an immigrant, to somebody who has an accent, to somebody who does not look a certain way. And why do I say that? Because I've been discriminated wrongfully and in the most horrific way when I was in UC Berkeley. And it was done by a Persian professor. Not a Persian professor who was born here and his parents migrated here, or somebody who moved here when he was in high school, or someone who considered himself as a Persian. No. We're talking about someone who was born in Iran, who grew up in Iran, who moved here for her education. Her education, and now it's part of the Department of Persian Literature in one of the most liberal universities in one of the most liberal states in the US, California, UC Berkeley. Yeah. That was it. It was horrific, to say the least. But that's where I want to kind of stop. And it was very recent. So it's not that it was a long time ago. And it's very unfortunate. That again, she is not a white person. She looked like me. She has a huge and thick accent. And, she will go to an extent believing that because I come from a certain background, because I moved here when I was in high school, English is not my first language, I have a certain accent that I was unable and or incapable of writing a good paper when my major is political science, and my GPA was very high. So how can I get it? I have to be able to write my papers correctly within certain guidelines, know the language, and be able to communicate it. Otherwise, how would I be able to study that major? How would I be able to continue studying that major, especially in a competitive university such as UC Berkeley, which grades are heavily important? And how would I be able to maintain a 3.7 and above? You understand? So that was kind of a backstory or an example to give you what I was trying to communicate earlier. Now, let me just open a parenthesis and say that that doesn't mean that those white people that I came across with, they were always good to me. No. But in 99% of the cases, when I was discriminated, it was from the minority group. And as I said, it's usually those people who keep that stigma and kind of carry it with themselves to the different levels that always want to use it against you. And this is the most unfortunate part of it. So, as an immigrant, as a student, as somebody who's planning to come here to either visit or live here for a long time and make this country their home, you have to have a thicker skin for this stuff. And I've experienced it from the very beginning when I was in high school, because I didn't know a lot of stuff. I had to ask a lot of questions and look like a complete idiot, because a lot of it was just like this beginner and simplistic subjects that majority of students were told over and over when they were in elementary school or in middle school. So I kind of got used to it. And you have to have that thicker skin in order to continue, in order to be indefatigable, and despite all the difficulties, just keep going. That's how I got into UC Berkeley with a 4.0 GPA, and kept thriving. And now I want to be a lawyer and go to a good law school, because I believe in myself. I believe that I'm capable, and did not allow these look downs, these stigmas, these discriminations kind of hold me back. All right. So it's very important that you have it. It's very important that you understand it's part of the game. And if you're a better looking guy, if you're taller, if you're more handsome, if you're beautiful as a lady or as a girl, you will have an easier time, because physical attraction is very important. I don't have to talk about it. It's pretty well known nowadays that people make decisions with their eyes rather than up there. But regardless, if you're planning to make this move and come to the US, and you've heard about all these different stories and different videos and all of this stuff, it's part of the game. You need to have a thicker skin, and you need to keep going and do not let it bother you. All right, so we talked about kind of my experience, and this was a very, very minimal and a nothing burger in compared to everything else that happened to us as a family and happened to me, and from different minority groups that if you guys are interested, we can talk about it more. All right, but that was just an example, and I just wanted to highlight it because it was in California, it was in UC Berkeley, it was by a Persian professor in a Persian department of UC Berkeley. All right, now let's move into the kind of the stigma behind it and the whole ideology that is within the discrimination. I'm going to tell you that it's really important how you look at it. And that was something that I learned when I was in high school. It was, I was basically cooperating with a couple of my friends to work on different essays that I had, because writing an essay is one of the most important things in the US, and is one of those things that I heavily was horrible at, because I had to pick up the language, I had to pick up the culture, the way they talk, the way they change their language, and go to formal writing versus informal, versus the way they talk. You cannot associate that when it comes to your writing. So it was a tougher journey. However, one of the things that I've learned, and it was thanks to one of my great teachers that really cared about their students, in compared to majority of teachers that nowadays just want you to stay at a certain level so they can milk you, and you make a god out of them, which I talked about this very subject in one of my other videos, making a god out of those people that help you. She kind of gave me that ideology, that she said basically, why are you worried about your accent? Because I felt like I have to be perfect when I was talking. When it comes to writing, I have to be perfect. And she said that, when immigrants talk, especially those who have an accent, we Americans tend to listen better and be more focused. And the reason behind that, it's because we're trying to pick up and see how what he's saying is going to get to the point, and B, what is the word that he just pronounced and how we pronounce it, or what is that word that he just said. So therefore, we're just like more engaged in the conversations, and that's the reason that majority of larger companies, they want immigrants to give those lectures. And it was that very moment that instead of listening to all of my other friends, that I was asking for help when it comes to writing, when it comes to, making it sound as native as possible, I was like, you know what? There's some uniqueness here that I have to appreciate, instead of letting it dissolve in this liquid form that I'm trying to make, that I have to look perfect and sound perfect and write perfect as an American. As if they do know the language and the grammatical writing very well, because majority of them don't. All right. So that was a very awakening moment for me, and I used that in order to encourage myself that I have a voice and it's unique. And I think that's, or not specifically this example or this particular matter, but this should be your outlook with regards to majority of those problems that comes your way. All right. And that has been my approach and my solution to this whole thing. Yeah, I dress different. Yeah, I have a different parents. Like, the way they look. My dad has a mustache and he looks a certain way, but it's cool. It's unique. And more people will be interested in that than showing them the average thing that they've been looking at or dealing with and known for a long time. All right, so that's how I kind of look at everything that I come across and say, hey, I have a place there too. I really do. Because they don't have a guy with this background. They don't have a guy who doesn't have a mother. They don't have a guy who comes from a low-income background. They don't have a guy who went through high school without knowing the language. So, if anything that I want you to get out of this video, if you're living abroad, you're planning to come here, if you are already here, if you're planning to come here for a short or long period of time, you need to know that it's part of the game. B, it's not always white people that going to discriminate you. Instead, those are going to be the minorities. Those are going to be people who have encountered this and want to kind of throw it at you. And then C, look at all the uniqueness that you bring into the game instead of the empty part of it. That's it. Until the next one, peace.